I'm Jeff with Stars and Stripes, and if some of my questions sound a little in the weeds, it's just because we get very in detail when it comes to pay and allowances. So the bill that's been proposed, would it also cover, it says pay and allowances, does that cover all special pays like combat pay, unit danger pay?
It would cover all pay and allowances, all pay. And because the whole goal is to make sure that if because of the games being played up here, there were to be a shutdown, we still hope there's not. But the people that definitely need to be assured they will get paid, all pay, all allowances on time should be those out defending us. And it hadn't been that many years ago, maybe it has since I was in the Army. I know what that means. And so when we heard that the military was concerned about whether or not they get paid on time, then we rushed through and we got this bill done. We're getting widespread support. We've got people in the Senate wanting to carry it over there and get it done. So we want to not only get it done, but we wanted to get the word to the military that we're going to make sure that no matter what happens in Washington, they get paid, and not later on, but on time, every time, just like they always do.
Okay.
And you know, I think what's important to all of us is we represent military. For example, I represent Southeast Georgia that has Fort Stewart, Hunter Army Airfield, Moody Air Force Base, Kings Bay Naval Base, Townsend Bombing Range, the 165th Air Wing, lots of military, about 80,000 active duty soldiers and reservists. Multiply that times their family dependents, you're talking about 200,000 people. And how could Harry Reid and Barack Obama tell a 21-year-old soldier and his family, while he's deployed in Afghanistan, you're going to have to wait for your paycheck because we're going to play some political game of one-upsmanship on the budget?
I represent Fort Hood, which I think everybody knows is the largest Army post on earth. The Army is seriously concerned about this. We, on one of the Appropriations Committee, and the day before yesterday, we met with the command sergeant majors and of each one of the services, and we asked what the biggest concern was, and overwhelmingly, it was unanimous. It was the fact that they might not get paid if the government shut down, and they're very concerned about that. So this is a high priority. I raised this issue in leadership. I'm really pleased we've got this started. I'm glad to be a part of this. It is imperative that not only do we fund the people that are our soldiers, but that we make sure that we don't have that story told that we got told another time. Yeah, but you didn't fund the office that pays them. So if there's any interpretation that wouldn't get their checks written, I'm going to ask that we do an amendment to make sure we get that group covered, because that's one of the things that's been raised to me by the individual soldier. Well, it wasn't the fact the Army wouldn't pay us, it was the fact that the pay folks were closed down. And so I want to talk to my colleagues here and make sure that we get that in there to make sure that there's no interference with the pay for our soldiers.
Does this also cover TRICARE?
I assume some of the benefits also, but
Okay.
I don't know.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Any idea how much this might cost total?
It's not going to cost any more than it costs every month. I mean, it's the same cost that it always is. It's going to get paid sooner or later. We wanted this bill to make sure it got paid sooner. Won't be any additional cost. No additional cost. It's just making sure the military get all of their pay, all of their allowances on time.
And you know, while they're fighting the wars around the globe, we're fighting a very important war on America's financial future here in Washington, D.C., but we don't think they have to be engaged in both theaters of combat. And so what we're saying is, you know what, let's let the soldiers fight Al-Qaeda, Taliban, the bad guys over in the Middle East. Let us fight the Democrats. And right now, we are having a discussion over $60 billion, which is less than 2% of the entire budget. And we don't have Harry Reid or Barack Obama seriously engaging in this debate. And it's small potatoes compared to what is going on with the budget right now. A deficit of $1.5 trillion, according to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. The stakes are extremely high for America right now, and while we don't want to close down the government, we understand that we're going to have to use any option we can to get the president to the table. But if that happens, we don't want the soldiers to be caught up in our political struggles.
And we don't even want them to worry another minute about it. That's the important thing.
And we don't want them to be used as a pawn in a political fight.
Exactly.
Where 2 of the 3 people in the fight are not coming to the table, the White House and the Senate. So,
Yeah, we
quite
wanna
honestly,
get that
that's
off.
very unfair to the guy that's out there
That's right.
risking his life on our behalf.
That's right.
But when you talk about the Senate and the President, do you worry that might limit the chance of bipartisan support for this bill?
I think the chance for bipartisan support in a let's all feel good and hold hands, that's come and gone. This bill's been on the table now for 6 weeks, and the discussion started back in November. So there's been plenty of opportunities to have, bipartisanship in a voluntary fashion. We're going to have to force the issue, and so we're doing everything we can to get the president in the room.
And when he says this bill's been on the table for 6 weeks, he's talking about, the CR,
That's
not
what
the
I figured,
military.
yeah.
The military is brand new, and it's today, and we're gonna make sure it gets done.
Okay.
And as a member of leadership, I'm going to be encouraging the members of the leadership team to give this a priority next week to get
Okay.
the House.
Do you have a timeline for when you'd like to see the House vote on this, and then when you'd like to see the Senate vote on this?
Immediately, as fast as
Yeah.
possible.
But it'll be next week.
It'll be next week.
Yeah.
If you,
But we wanted the military to know today, even before the weekend, that we may fuss and gnash and have all kinds of disagreements here, but when it comes to the military, those people that are protecting us, we got to make sure that we protect them.
And we believe that we will get bipartisan support on
Yes.
this bill. So we're thinking it can move through the House very quickly and move through the Senate, which doesn't do anything quickly.
In fact, I'm wondering if we could get a unanimous consent and see if anybody wants to object to the military getting paid on time. Yeah.
okay. You're talking about you expect bipartisan support. As you can imagine, confidence in Congress is kind of low right now. What is it about this issue that makes you believe Congress can act?
This issue meaning the
Making sure troops get paid, benefits, all on time.
As Louis said, I think it's very important that we are unified when it comes time to paying the troops and showing appreciation for the sacrifices that they're making. And so while we have bipartisan or partisan struggles, most of those are philosophical. But on this one, we're not going to have philosophical divisions. We all believe that the soldiers should be paid, so we think we can come together.
And in this current time, you find very few people, even the anti-war people, who are anti-soldier people.
If they are, they're afraid to say it.
If they are, they're afraid to say it. And I don't think anybody in either party wants to see that picture of, a young wife with a baby on her hip looking into the camera and saying, we couldn't pay our mortgage and we couldn't pay our car payment. My husband just been wounded over in Afghanistan, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't think anybody in politics would want to see that picture on television.
And why are we here? We're here because the president's not leading.
That's
The President of the
exactly
United
right.
States has taught a good game about balancing the budget and bringing folks in the room and having a bipartisan deficit reduction commission whose own recommendations he ignored. We're here saying, you know what, since there's no leadership at the White House, we're going to step forward and we're going to keep throwing ideas up there and see which ones stick.
And if anyone in America should be a champion for our fighting men and women, it ought to be the President of the United States.
And can I ask,
He is the Commander-in-Chief.
have you been hearing stories from your constituents or from other service members about what they're worried about will happen if they don't get paid, as in they're going to lose the house, they're going to lose the car, they don't know how they're going to pay medical bills?
I had a town hall type meeting in my district during the last work period at home. And I had a sergeant stand up in the back of the room when I was explaining to them the consequences of a shutdown, and they already knew the consequences. He made a very interesting statement. He said, "Sir," he said, I voluntarily fight for the United States of America. I'm proud to fight for the United States of America, and I'm good at it. But I'm better at it if I'm getting paid." And I had to laugh, but it was a good comment.
Well, I've heard from people, our office has heard from people who have not given specifics as to what is in jeopardy, but they've made it clear, if they don't get the pay on time, it is a huge problem, and we just can't do that to our men and women that are protecting us.
You know, the nature of this war, this modern war, is that soldiers can talk to their spouses weekly. They can look face to face on the internet and have conversations with their spouses. So as a soldier fights and with all the issues he has to deal with in a war theater, he's still dealing with the issues back home. And this is going to really enhance the problems back home, which puts stress on the soldier, but puts his life at risk.
Yeah, and we know that this administration even made it a priority to have gay sensitivity training out on the front lines in Afghanistan. If they can go to the trouble to make sure there's gay sensitivity training on the front lines in Afghanistan, they can, by golly, get on board with this bill to make sure they get paid while they're going through their gay sensitivity training in Afghanistan.
And are you confident that this bill will pass?
I don't think they'll have, it'll be amazing if we don't get a huge number on this bill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I pity the person that opposes it.
Okay. And last question, I always like to turn the floor over to the people I've spoken to, because in the process of talking, sometimes people want to say something and they can't because I'm just, hitting them with questions. Is there anything you feel needs to be included in the story?
The emphasis now is on speed.
Yeah.
Okay. And
But
you-
it is on getting the information to our military. We've got them covered. They're protecting us. We've got to protect them and their families in this fight up here.
Okay. All right, thank you much, and as this bill
Other
progresses.
questions?
We have one.
Gentlemen, so we've heard about what this bill will do. So what can soldiers, families, and more importantly, the supporters do to get this legislation passed?
That's a great question. They can call their member of Congress and ensure that they know this bill is here and that they want to get on board. And we're not talking about a partisan issue. We're talking about whether your member is Republican, Democrat, or Martian. Call them, tell them to get on board. They can co-sponsor, they can express their support, and it'll bring it all the quicker.
And so three of us are very pro-military. We're involved in military issues on a daily basis, but there are members of Congress who aren't. And so that contact from back home, sometimes they just don't even know about the bill. And so it can be very helpful.
Those soldiers that are deployed, they all have email capability. Email your congressman and tell them how critical it is to your quality of life as a soldier.
Military must get paid, and if they haven't heard about the bill, if they've somehow missed our calls and emails, then they sure should be hearing from their constituents who are part of the military or the military family. Okay, great question.
Gentlemen,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.